Hello, 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 and welcome or welcome back. I'm Shakia, and in this episode, we're going to talk about Love Without Borders, Season 1, Episode 6. Let's get into it. First up, we have Dana, and I have to really stop myself because I want to say Dana, but that's not her name. Dana from Montana, and Brian. And they pick up where the last episode ended. They are still in Brian's kitchen talking about whether there is chemistry or no chemistry. And Dana says, "But I thought we had chemistry." And Brian tells her, I was just trying to make it work. The more that we watch Dana, I'm like, okay, I'm rooting for her. I think in the beginning, she seemed a little too eager with Brian, but then also it seemed like they were vibing and they were connecting and all that good stuff. And so I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is working, but calm down a little bit, Dana. Don't push him away. But Brian is saying, look, there was no chemistry. There was no chemistry. We fast forward in the episode, and Brian introduces Dana to his sister, Lorna. And they're at a restaurant and they're conversing and laughing. And Lorna, of course, she's going to ask because, I mean, if your sibling was involved in an experiment like this, you would ask too. And so she goes, all right, so tell me, how's it going? What's going on? And Dana says that it was going okay. They get along well. But you could tell Dana is a little sad. She's more reserved now in that scene than we've seen her in other scenes. Brian joined in on the conversation, and he said that it was a whirlwind at the beginning. And it was so much adrenaline and emotion. And he's been thinking the last few days, is Dana right? Is she not right? And he goes, it's going to take some time. Then Dana, she gets up, she goes to the restroom. She excuses herself, she goes to the restroom. We see her in the confessional outside. And in the confessional, Dana says that it's hard for her to keep investing much of herself because she doesn't know what his intentions are. And she's disappointed. And at this point, she has become tearful, or she became tearful. And again, I feel for Dana. I definitely understand. I understand where she is, right? This place of not knowing, thinking one thing, but then being told something else. So you could tell she shut down a little bit. So at this point, Dana is still away from the table, and it's just Brian and Lorna. And Lorna asks, because I'm sure she's sensing something, she's picking up a vibe there. She's like, give me the tea. What's really going on? And she asks, is this a slow burner? And Brian says, yes. And he goes, she's not somebody I would normally date. And Lorna agrees. She says, well, knowing who your exes are, I can see that. So I go, okay, all right. So what does that mean? Like, where's Lorna going to take this conversation? And Brian does say to Lorna that he likes that Dana is independent. And when he goes away to do his own thing, she's cool with it. And Lorna gets excited. She's like, you need somebody who's independent. This is great. Like, she is your type. See where this goes. And so at this point, I'm wondering, like, what are Brian's patterns? Because if his sister is reacting this way, I'm wondering what his patterns were like with past relationships. Has he been somebody who broke it off with a mate so easily or really soon because maybe he's picky, or like, what are some of his patterns? I'm curious to learn that. And then, in Brian's confessional scene, he says that he's had about 5 substantial relationships. And he said he's guilty of not putting in the time or commitment and not keeping the spark alive. And I can see that. And perhaps, I don't know, maybe in the beginning when there was no attraction and he was trying to overcompensate for that because he was expecting sparks or wanted sparks, but there weren't any. And so he tried to overcompensate for that. And that's where all that making out and, looking into her eyes and telling her she doesn't need blush. Do you remember that scene? When she says, I'm blushing. And he says, well, now you can put away the blusher. I'm like, blush, Brian. But anyway, maybe he wanted to really make sure she felt comfortable because he already knew, like, I don't feel anything just yet. Now, this could be good. stick with me here. This could be good for Brian and for Dana because if Brian is used to sparks, right, in the beginning, not having sparks in the beginning will allow him and Dana to create a strong foundation for a relationship, and they can totally grow from there and build from there and really connect with one another. So I think this is great for Dana and Brian. And to be clear, I don't think that there's anything wrong with Brian not having an immediate attraction to Dana. I think that's totally fine. I think what got most of us a little upset with him is that he misled her. He seemed really into her. Again, they had several makeout sessions. I mean, come on. But he seemed really into her. The conversations they had. I'm telling you, last episode, when she revealed her age, when she told him how old she was, I really think that was like strike one for him. I really do. And then how what he observed on his farm, I think that was strike two. And then I think strike three was, well, there isn't an immediate attraction because she's not somebody I would typically go for. He said he usually dates women who are more natural, like less glam, so to speak. He said that they'll get up in the morning and what they put on is what they are going to wear for the rest of the day. And when he said this, bravo, so shady. They cut to the clip when Dana is asking him lashes or no lashes. He, of course, chose the side of no lashes. And so we see that she is, different. Well, based off of what he said, she's different than his typical dating option or dating preference. I do love that, and I'm going backwards a little bit to the beginning of the episode, but I do love that Dana, when he said that to her, she said, well, so you're judging me because you think I'm superficial. And he goes, well, yeah. And she goes, but isn't that a little superficial? Like, get to know me and then make that judgment. But if he's just judging her and he thinks maybe she's like superficial because she likes to adorn herself with makeup and lashes and things like that, then I think it is pretty superficial. So, anyway, that was very long. It was a long way for me to say, I do not have an issue with Brian not having an immediate attraction to Dana. It's just that I feel he did mislead her, and Dana feels that way too. She says that later on in the episode. As we move further along into the episode, we see Brian give Dana a Christmas present. If you did not watch, do you have an idea on what the Christmas present may have been? The Christmas present was he bought her makeup pads. Why would you do that? You just said that you like more natural and, all these different things about how she chooses to look. And one of the other episodes, he's like, I don't like all that gear. But then you bought her makeup pads. So are you doing it to be funny? Or are you doing it because this is something she might use? And then he goes, well, you can wash them so you can keep using them. And Dana's face is like, what is this guy doing? What is he doing? What is this guy thinking? She's confused by this. And I am too. And then Brian, he sees Dana's face and he's like, oh, look at that face. And it was in that moment he knew he messed up. He was like, oh. So anyway, we move further along into the episode, and Dana is on the couch and she's playing her guitar because remember, she's a singer-songwriter and I'm sure she's gonna write a good song about this. But she's playing her guitar and Brian comes over, he sits down, they continue to have this conversation. And Dana says to him that she isn't mad that there wasn't a connection from the beginning, but she feels taken on a ride right now. And Brian says, look, there's no spark, but if there's any space in your heart to trust me and just enjoy each other's time, is that a step in the right direction? So, yes, I think that is a step in the right direction for them to enjoy one another and for both of them to be open to this process. To Dana's point, however, she says, I can't trust what he's saying. I don't know what's real for him and what's just put on. Because remember, They done had this build up. They done connected. They made out. She thought he liked her. She thought he was feeling her. And then he was like, look, I just was trying to make this work. So now she's at this point where she's thinking, I don't know if I can actually trust what he's saying to me, or I don't know if I can trust what's going on. We see in the confessional, Dana says, I would rather him be an a hole and own it. I would respect him at least, because now at this point she's questioning his intentions. Now again, and as I said before, it's okay that there was no immediate attraction or connection, and I don't think that he's an a-hole if he told her that. I think he's being open and honest. I think, and I think, perhaps this is what Dana also thought, or would have wanted to happen, is that he told her this a little sooner, perhaps before all the makeout sessions, or he slowed down a little bit and they didn't even take it that far, I mean, they slept in the same bed, and that he had her sit on his lap, and so I think that if he would not have done those things, we would have had a different reaction, Dana and I, because clearly we're friends here. No, but I think there would have been a different reaction to Brian. So, he finally says that he takes responsibility for misleading her in the beginning, and I think that's a great step. And she says that she doesn't know if she can open up at this point. You can really see the shift in her personality at this point. She's way more like reserved and closed off than she was at the beginning. And I know some people may argue, well, that's how she should have been from the start. But look, they are in this wild experiment. Okay, this experiment is intense, and so I can see somebody being super excited, and wanting to get to know the person, and perhaps on her end she was attracted, and they are adults, and she wanted to kiss him. I'm fine with that. I just wish he would have been more open, and he's like, you know what, actually, I'm not ready for that just yet. That could have made a difference for both of them. Okay, so anyway, moving right along, Brian tells her that his feelings are growing for her and that she's growing on him. I'm like, Brian, I don't like that expression in this time, in this moment. You're growing on me. I don't know. It was something about that moment where I'm like, you could have just stopped at my feelings are growing for you. I don't know if he was trying to like be cute when he said you're growing on me, but it didn't come off like that. He also says that he really cares for her. He tells her to be gentle with her and with them, and that he wants to see the gentler little girl side of her. And he says he wants to give her love, but one has to be open to receive. To which she responds, that's hard. Yes, that's going to be hard, because now she's in the space of, I don't really know what's going on. So then he asks, well, what do you need from me? And she says, consistency and words and actions. That's what's going to help her get there. So she doesn't feel like she has to, keep that guard up or protect herself so much. They end that conversation with a hug, and in the confessional, Dana says that she is open to second chances. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about Dana and Brian? Is there any hope for these two? Oh, I would love to hear from you. Let me know what you think. Next up, we have Phil and Carmen. And when we see them, they're in the kitchen and Carmen is cooking, and they are preparing for Carmen's twin sister, Cynthia, to stop on by. And when she does, the three of them engage in conversation. But there's a point where Phil and Cynthia are sitting down with one another. And Carmen, she, I think, goes back into the kitchen. She's pretending to do something, but really she's listening because she keeps interjecting. She keeps responding. And so, Cynthia is asking Phil some questions. What do you think about Ghana? And he says that he's enjoying Ghana. He loves Ghana. It reminds him of Jamaica. That's where his family is from. And so she's like, oh, I love that you love Ghana. Carmen comes back. They are about to enjoy what looks like is going to be a delicious meal, but Phil's pants rip. He goes to sit down and his pants rip, and you can hear it. And I don't know if that was the magic of Bravo editing, but you heard his pants rip, and it's just like, oh my goodness. And so that was a funny moment. They all laughed. I think they all handled it well. Some people can't laugh at themselves, but Phil did. He's like, oh, my pants ripped. And they continue to move on. And I thought that was just great. So then Cynthia, she of course asked the big question. She's like, so what was your first impression of Carmen? And of course, Phil, he's like, she's a goddess. I thought she was so beautiful. And then Cynthia asked the really big question, at least for now. She wanted to know whether or not Carmen was the type of person he would want to settle down with eventually. And Phil said that there are aspects that they're working out and they are getting to know each other. He likes that Carmen is driven and motivated and that she goes out and she goes after what she wants. Cynthia says that she thinks that there's something there, that they seem like good buddies with each other so far. And Carmen is like, yeah, it feels like he's been here for 6 months. But he hasn't. It hasn't been there for anywhere near 6 months, but a lot has happened in this time. And Cynthia said, some of the best relationships start off as friends, which is true, right? We build a solid foundation. And I was saying this about Brian and Dana, build a solid foundation. And usually that does include having a strong friendship, a connection with each other. And that helps to go just beyond that initial attraction and to really build something of substance with each other. And that can help what I started to say was that can help the relationship to last, to last for a substantial amount of time, if not for forever. No. So what do you think of Carmen and Phil so far? There is one more thing. So we see that Phil gives Carmen a Christmas present. And what does he give her? He gives her a bathing suit, a bikini, and well, a bathing suit, okay? And so he said, I saw this mannequin and this mannequin was shaped like Carmen. And I thought, oh, wow, this is Carmen's style. She would look so good in this. And he was super excited to give her this present. And he handed her the present. They were, I think having dinner outside. He handed her the present. And Carmen was like, oh, thank you. You got me a bikini. And she starts laughing and she goes, thank you so much. Thank you. And then in the confessional, when and the confessional, she's like, this isn't my style. And I'm like, yeah, Phil, we saw what she was wearing when she went to the pool. What you bought her was too covered up. Maybe he was trying to send a message. I don't know. But she holds it up and she goes, this is something my grandma would wear. And she's like, this isn't my style. And I thought that was really funny. I'm like, my grandma would have said, show it, baby. All right, so that is Phil and Carmen for this week. Now, there wasn't much drama with them this episode, which I'm super excited about. However, we did see a teaser for next week's episode, and it looks like Carmen didn't come home with Phil. So we'll definitely check that out and keep watching. But let me know in the comments, what do you think of Phil and Carmen so far? So we're not going to include the teaser moment, but just what we saw so far. Is there any hope for these two? What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Okay, next up, we have Girline and Shreyas. Girline. All right, so Girline goes out. She gets decorations. She brings them back to the apartment, and she and Shreyas, they decorate the apartment for Christmas. And then they have a conversation about what took place. We saw it last week when she was upset with him because he stepped in to have her back. And she's like, I can take care of myself. I can defend myself. Or I don't need you to defend me, something like that. But they talk it through, and it seemed like they came to a resolution. They said, look, there was miscommunication, and they blamed it on the alcohol. They said they both had been drinking a lot of, I think, tequila. And I'm like, okay, that's fair enough, because they definitely were drinking. And I'm thinking, there's hope. They can move beyond this. Let's enjoy each other. But no, they go out to Shreyas' friend's house. They are back at the house. Why are you back at this house? Don't nothing good happen to y'all at this house or with, around these friends. So they go to Shreyas's friend's house for their annual Christmas party, and there Shreyas is drinking vodka, and Gurleen says something to him, and she's like, "Look, you told me to tell you about the alcohol, but you're not even listening to me. So you know what? You do you." They leave. Now, as the viewer, it's the next day, and we see Shreyas is in the bed, he is on his phone, and Gurleen is in the bathroom. She's doing her makeup. And now we are told both their versions of the story from their confessional interviews. Shreya said they were outside, they were leaving the party, they were outside waiting for a taxi. And then he says that last night was such a downfall. He said that out of nowhere, Gurleen decided to pick a fight about equal rights. Now, here's the thing. I don't mind talking about equal rights. That's something that we could talk about because I want equal rights for everybody everywhere in the world. So there's nothing wrong with talking about equal rights. Now, here's the thing, time and place. I don't think it was the best time nor place to talk about equal rights. Why? Because they were just at a party. They both had been drinking. I assume both of them were drinking. I know that Shreyas was, and I believe we saw Gurleen drink, but you know what? I'm not 100% sure. But I'm just going to make the assumption that they were both drinking. And they were, I hope, at some point having a good time. But regardless, if they were drinking, why start a conversation on equal rights? And if you start it, you say, okay, you know what? Let's talk about this when we sober up. That's a heavier topic. Gurleen says she came across a law, she was doing research, and she came across a law that said women needed a signed permission slip from either their husband or father in order to work. And Shreyas, he says no. He goes that he and his sister were brought up equally, equal love from their parents, and they were brought up equally. And she says, look, just because your office or family might do things a certain way, this doesn't mean that it's not happening or that it's not an actual law. Then Shreya says that she takes out her phone, that Gurleen takes out her phone and she starts recording the argument. To me, that just escalated, right? It's going to escalate the argument because now I'm looking at this person like, why are you recording me? What are you hoping to get from this? Where are you going to send this, put this? Like, what are you going to do with this recording? Gurleen said that she was 99% sure she was going to use that recording to for them to play back and like listen to so that they could discuss the argument later on. Okay, Girlene, I don't know if this is the best strategy, beloved. I don't think that's the best way to do this, especially when you all were drinking. I don't know if it was the right move, beloved, to take out your phone and start recording him. Because then that puts the other person on edge. It puts the other person on defense like, "Whoa, what's going on? I'm thinking this is a private conversation." Now, even though the conversation they said got intense, it didn't sound like it was a situation that needed to be recorded. Like it didn't sound like it got violent or anything like that. Under those circumstances, then yes, we're going to record because we might need documentation and proof, da 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 da. Okay, but it didn't sound like that was the case. So, why did you really record the argument, Girlene? Why do y'all think she recorded it? And perhaps because as we've gotten to know Girlene a little bit, she could have actually wanted to watch it and discuss it with him. And by discuss it, I mean discuss what he was saying and his behavior and not necessarily how, she played a part in it. But what do you guys think about her pulling out the phone and recording their argument? I don't think that's great, Girlene. Okay, so later on in the episode, Shreyas's family comes over to their apartment for Christmas dinner. And Shreya said that he has to keep his feelings to himself. He doesn't want to ruin anybody else's time. He said he wants everybody to have a good time, but it was really hard for him to do that. And so you saw there were moments of awkward silence, and the father started singing a song, and then we see them talk a little bit, but for the most part, we don't really see Shreyas and Gurleen interact with one another. Then in the confessional, Gerline, I believe she's in a bedroom, probably her bedroom, and she says that she loves how his parents interact with one another and that she thinks that's the type of relationship she would love to have. Because she says she wants to marry her best friend, which is great. Marry your best friend. First, we got to allow ourselves to actually have that type of relationship with a potential partner. We got to allow ourselves to be friends and to be close with that potential partner. I think Gerline is subconsciously picking these fights with Shreyas because this is her way of protecting herself. This is her way of keeping her guard up, keeping her distance. Because, and we're going to hear this, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. We know a little bit about her upbringing, and they mention this further in the episode when she meets with Erica in person. But before we get there, she also says that she feels that Shreyas glossed over what she cared about. And she said there's more that she needs in a partner. She thinks that she and Shreyas might be on different pages about what they value. Again, I think you wanted him to have a conversation about something that's pretty important when he was intoxicated. I don't think that's a fair advantage. Now, could he be minimizing because it's not his experience? For sure. For sure. And they can totally talk about it. I think that's fine. That you want to be able to talk to your partner or a potential partner about things that matter to you, about what you value. Because if the values aren't aligned, 9 times out of 10, that relationship is not going to last. And if you stay with a person, you might feel some internal resistance and things like that. So I 100% think that we want to discuss what our values are. I just think that there's a time and a place to do it. And I think there's a way to have the conversation, right? We want to allow the person to speak their truth and to be respectful of that. And then let's see now if our truths align with one another and what we are willing to compromise and what we aren't. I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent because I'm talking now in general, but I think this can also relate to Gerline. Obviously, you're not going to give up wanting equality, right? You're not going to compromise on that, and that's fair. I just think that there's a time and a place, and maybe I'm wondering if she's judging him too harshly for a conversation she wanted to have when he was intoxicated. I started to say that I think she might be subconsciously having these arguments with Shreyas as a way to protect herself. And, talking about her background with her family, it doesn't sound like she came from a very supportive family or loving family. Later on, we see her have the conversation with Erica in person, and there's a replay or a flashback to an earlier scene with them, I think in episode 1, where she says like her family never told her that they loved her. They said that she would bring shame on the family and just things like that. And so it could be difficult for her to trust people and open up. And remember, in a different video when I talked about Gerline, I talked about her hyper independence. Perhaps that's why she's so independent, because she didn't have that support from her family early on. And now she feels like she always has to be in control. She always, and I'm just making assumptions here, she may feel like she always has to be in control. She always has to do everything right, and just different things like that. Or she has to do everything herself. And this experience with Shreyas is bringing up a lot for her. I'm wondering if she's going to be open and willing to acknowledge that and actively work through it so that she and Shreyas can form a foundation for their relationship, so that they can form a deeper connection with one another. Now, Erica, she does tell Gerline why she matched her with Shreyas. And she says, Shreyas comes from a very loving family. Although you guys come from similar cultures, you had different experiences, and that Shreyas had a lot of great qualities, just qualities that she thought Erica thought would align with Gerline. And she was hoping that Shreyas could create safety for Gerline's heart. And Gerline says that it feels like she's failing. Gerline, I think it's important for you, I think it's important for Gerline to ask herself, is this what she really wants? In terms of a relationship, whether it's with Shreyas or not, are you willing to put in the work to build something of substance with somebody? And if yes, are you willing to give this a try with Shreyas? And look, nobody's perfect. I'm sure Shreyas is not an angel. And I'm sure we're going to see some of that in later episodes because this is how reality TV works. Um, Based off of what we see now, it does seem as if Shreyas does want to try and make this work, but they just keep missing each other. There's just a lot of miscommunication. I also think the way they communicate is different. And so it does feel like they're not on the same page a lot of the times. I know that some people may not like these matches. I don't mind them, most of them. There are some where I'm like, not really sure. But for the most part, I can see why Erica matched each person with their match. So, okay, that is Gurleen and Shreyas. What do you think about them? And what do you think about Gurleen's decision to have a conversation about equality after a Christmas party when they had been drinking? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Next up, we have Naeem and Chandra. Ooh, Chandra. All right, let's get into it. So Chandra said that she felt a little bad because she rescinded the invitation for Naeem to go with her to her family's home for Thanksgiving dinner. So she said she feels bad. Then they being the editors, they show us a clip of Naeem and Chandra having a conversation. And she's like, look, you play too much. I'm paraphrasing here. You play too much. You're always joking around. I need to know that you can respect me and take things more seriously. And he says, I never meant to intentionally disrespect you. I would never do that. He apologizes. They make up. They move on. Cut to this present episode. And Chandra says, let's go to a nightclub. Let's go dance. So Naeem is like, oh, I'm down. Okay, cool. And she says, well, we're gonna use my friend who's an Uber driver, and he's also my ex-boyfriend. Chandra said that her car wasn't working, and so they were going to take an Uber. Okay, Chandra. Okay. So I'm thinking there's nothing wrong with that, right? Now, is he going as the Uber driver or as the Uber driver and your friend? Because that's what she said. So now I'm thinking, oh, so y'all all gonna go party together. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. This is still not a big deal, right? And Naeem, he's playing it cool. He's like, all right, a little awkward, but it is what it is. Chandra's ex-boyfriend, he comes over to pick them up, and he comes in the house, and Chandra gives him this nice big old hug. But perhaps she was just being friendly because this is her friend, and his name is Enrique. And Naeem meets him. He says, hey, man, what's up? Just being all cool. Hey, man, what's up? And they head on out and they go to the nightclub. And at the nightclub, Naeem and Chandra, they are dancing. And I mean, Chandra is cutting it up on the dance floor and they are having a good time. And Naeem is loving it. And so is Chandra. She comes outside and she does a confessional interview. And she says, oh, Naeem is so much fun. And she goes, I think I had one, too. And she starts counting. I think she had like 4 drinks. And she's like, I'm a little tipsy. And she starts laughing. And they're having a good time. And then Chandra starts having a good time with Enrique on the dance floor. And I mean, she was dancing with Enrique all up close and personal, okay? Also, I just really like to say Enrique. And so they're dancing, and Naeem is pissed. He's like, look at them. They have so much chemistry. So Naeem, he doesn't go and stay with Chandra. He goes to a hotel. He checks himself into a hotel. But then he comes back the next day and he notices that Enrique's car is in the driveway. And so when he comes in and he talks to Chandra, he says, "So, tell me about the rest of your night with Enrique." Or Enrique. um, Tell me about the rest of your night. What did y'all get into? And she's like, the only thing I remember is laying down and the room was spinning. So he's sitting there and he's like, Chandra, do you think you still have chemistry with him? Chandra says, I think there's still a connection. He's my friend. So Chandra says, yes, he stayed over. Yes, he slept in her bed. Yes, he slept next to her, but no, nothing happened. And Naeem is like, Chandra, because now let's really talk about it. Naeem, he said that he didn't get all serious and he want a serious committed relationship with somebody until after he had the 19, until after he got really sick. Then he had a conversation with God and he was like, okay, I'm about to change my ways. But prior to that, from his own words, he said he said he was a dog to women. So he was out there doing some things and not treating women right. And now Chandra is saying to him, no, nothing happened. And I'm sure Naeem is thinking, I done said the same thing to some folk before. Karma, Naeem. You see him sitting there like, come on. Now, what I will say, I love that he was calm the entire time. He was like, we gonna have this conversation. We're grown. We're not doing all this arguing, going back and forth. And so he was calm. He was cool about it. I was like, oh, okay, brother, I see you. But he also seemed hurt because he does like Chandra. He likes her and he liked Chandra from the moment he saw her. And I think there are certain qualities about her that he does like. You can just tell, when you first meet somebody and you're a little giddy around them. That's what Naeem reminds me of. Even though I said it before that I think he was just so goofy and silly, but I do think he does like Chandra. And so, again, if they can find some balance, then here's to hoping. Here's to hoping. But are we even going to get there? Because Chandra, she's sharing a bed with her ex. And she says, again, nothing happened. She says, if I don't want anything to happen, it's not going to happen. What do you think? Chandra said that she and her ex are just friends. That's it. And she kept saying, we are just friends. He is my friend. That's it. I think here is the thing. If Chandra, excuse me, were not doing this this experiment, right? If she's just single and she wanted to share a bed with her ex, that is her business. She is grown. I think if you are in a relationship or if you're dating somebody, I think that's disrespectful. Whether you all are friends or not, that's disrespectful because you all weren't only just friends. And how long ago did they break up? I'm not sure. Do you remember? Did they tell us? I don't remember. If you do remember how long ago Chandra broke up with her ex, let me know in the comments because I can't recall right now. But I don't think that that was okay, whether you were drinking or not. Now, if they were drinking and they're back at her place and she didn't want him or he didn't want to, drive home, I understand that, but sleep on the couch, not up in her bed. But Chandra stood her ground. She said, we are just friends. So I want to see what happens with Chandra and Naeem.
I didn't sign up for this. I am not going to invest myself in somebody that's clearly playing games. I know my worth. I know my value.
Nothing happened.
Oh.
What do you think? Let me know in the comments. What do you think about Naeem and Chandra? Do you think there's something there? Do we see that Naeem maybe mellowed out a little bit? He can still be goofy and stuff, but perhaps he's taking what Chandra said to heart. He's taking that into consideration. So he doesn't have to change himself. We just like to meet somewhere in the middle because we would want the other person to do that for us. So anyway, let me know in the comments, what do you think about Naeem and Chandra? And what do you think about Chandra dancing all up on her Uber driver, aka her ex-boyfriend? Chandra. All right, up next, Mayel and Aaron. Now, before I go any further, I don't know if Aaron knows who the president is. He and Mayel are having a conversation, and Mayel said, do you know who the president is of your country? And Aaron is like, I don't know. Is it Bernie? Don't ask me this right now. Is it Bernie?
I'm the worst with politics. Who's your president? I'm not telling you. You don't know? Bernie. Are you serious? I can't think of it right now.
Aaron, are you on a different timeline from the rest of us? One where Bernie won, but that's not the timeline the rest of us are on. Sir, why do you not know who the president is, sir? Why? Now, maybe it's because he was drinking. And look, we're learning something from these couples, right? Because these couples who make certain statements or who get into it, they've had a lot to drink sometimes. So be careful out there. I'm really hoping that it was because he was intoxicated, that he didn't know the president. But if you get drunk, do you forget who the president is? Do you forget? Have you gotten so drunk that you forgot the president? Look, no judgment. I just really want to know. That one caught me off guard. I'm like, sir. But anyway, so Mael and Aaron, they are driving to meet up with Mael's parents and his two brothers. And Mael says that he has not driven a car in about 6 years. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do if I don't drive a car in a few days. I get so nervous. And so I'm nervous for Aaron and Mael driving. But nonetheless, they head on to their destination, and in the car during the car ride, they answer questions from one of the pageants. I think Miss Universe? One of the pageants. And I think it was Mael who said, well, two gays in the car, what are we going to do? And he says, we're going to answer these questions. And finally, we see that they're talking with one another. It seemed fun at first. Then Aaron, he responds to the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And Aaron gives this elaborate answer. They do the cuts, so we know like so much time is passing. Another cut, and he just like keeps talking and talking, which is cool. You have this awesome plan and vision for your future. Awesome, Aaron. And then Mael says, what about relationship? He had this long response regarding a career and things he would like to do, but nothing related to a relationship. And I thought that was odd considering you're on a show to find love. You said you wanted to find love, but it wasn't in his response. And Aaron said, it's not really in my vision. I don't know. I'm a workaholic. His career is very important to him. And Mael is taken aback by this, which is definitely understandable. At this point, I'm wondering if Aaron should just go home. I'm like, are you really into this? Is it that he's not into this experience or he's not into this experience with Mael? And at this point, then you need to just say that, sir. Like, come on. I think Aaron might be another one who's blocking potential love here. He doesn't have a lot of experience with relationships. And the relationship he told us about, he was hurt. He got hurt. And I think maybe he also is having a hard time letting somebody else in. I wonder if it's that or if it's he's just not into Mael. I adore Mael. Listen, I do. I adore Mael because I like him and he seems to genuinely want love and he seems to be into this process and also respectful of Aaron and Aaron's boundaries. But at the same time, it's like, come on, we're here. Let's try and see if we can build something together. So, okay, anyway, they drive and they meet up with they meet up with Mael's family, his mother and two brothers. I'm not sure where the father was because I know that Mael before in a previous episode, he said that he and his father were rebuilding their relationship. So I'm wondering whether or not the father wanted to come or if he just couldn't make it. Okay, so while they are at the restaurant with Mael's family, Mael gets up, he goes to the restroom, and they're asking Aaron, how's it going? And if there's any like romance or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. Aaron said there is little romance, that they get along with each other, but there's little romance. And Aaron in the confessional, he says like, I'm not going to let them in on every bit of what's going on. And Mael, when he comes back and he hears that, he's like, dude, we hooked up. They hooked up. Remember, during the last episode, Aaron had the conversation with Erica about his issues with touch right now. He said he didn't want to go too far physically and he wanted to build something emotionally, but he was willing to let Mayel give him a massage. Mayel gave him a massage, and I guess one thing led to another. They watched a movie. Mayel said they ate some popcorn, and then they hooked up. And so now Mayel is saying, we're not romantic, but we hooked up. So what did this mean for you? So when we see them again, they are back at Mayel's apartment. At this point, it's the next day. And Mayel, he's had enough. He's fed up because guess where Aaron slept? He slept on the couch. And Mayel says, I don't understand. You have this nice, comfortable bed, but you choose to sleep on the couch. And Aaron says, I guess I'm just not good sleeping with people. During Mayel's confessional, he reveals that Aaron told him that at the start he was expecting sparks and love at first sight. Mayel says, I'm the opposite. I'm the other way around. Like, you have to make some room to work on love and to make it grow, and that he's been trying to put an effort for two people and now he's feeling discouraged. I would feel discouraged too because it does feel like he is making an effort and Aaron is just not that into it. And so then at some point, Mayel does ask Aaron, if he's ready. And why did he do this matchmaking experience if he isn't? Because Mayel says, perhaps I could have been matched with somebody else who was ready and it could have been different. And Aaron just says, I don't know. Sir, go home. Go home if you're not into this. And do we have an alternate for Mayel? Can they bring in an alternate, another match, and Mayel can start all over with somebody else? Go home, Aaron. Aaron said he still sees himself as being very busy. Mayel says that's okay, because then they bring up the conversation that they had in the car, and Mayel is, still confused. He's still taken aback by Aaron having this long response, but not mentioning anything about a relationship. And Aaron says, "Well, I still see myself working a lot." Mayel agrees. Listen, of course you should keep up with your job. Of course you should do that. But we're in this experience, he says, and it's a bit sad not to give it a chance. It is sad. Don't waste his time, Aaron. Be upfront, be truthful. Don't waste his time and don't waste our time as the viewer. If you don't want to be there, I need you to leave. And Aaron was upset, okay? And when he was in his confessional interview, he said, look, he just opened up to Mayel about this stuff, about his future and career ideas and things like that. And he doesn't really talk about that a lot. And he feels it backfired on him. Excuse me, sir, do you not see where Mayel is coming from? Do you not see why he had the response he had? Do you not see that? Like, you literally had all these plans, and not once did you say anything about romance at all, or, having a relationship with somebody at all. And you are in this car next to this man on this, taking part in this huge experiment. But you are upset that it backfired, that you shared these plans. I think you are missing something, Aaron. I think you're missing a point here. And so Aaron said he doesn't know what he's having a problem with. Sir, you are closed off. Are you afraid of getting hurt? If so, let's be honest, but also let's be honest about whether or not you can see anything developing with Mayel. And not just the physical attraction, as you learn more about him, are you learning things that you like? Are you learning about things that you can deal with and put up with? Or are you seeing things where you're like, this is a deal breaker? Are you seeing red flags? Like, Aaron, let us know what's up. Otherwise, go home. Mayel, at this point, he said he doesn't want to set himself up to be hurt and that he is not going to fight a battle he cannot win. Aaron, be truthful. What do you all think about Mayel and Aaron? Now, we do see a teaser for next week's episode, and we see Aaron is still there. He didn't leave, he didn't go home. And they are creating art, some spicy art. in Mael's living room, it looks like. So perhaps there is hope for these two. Perhaps there is hope for Aaron because it seems like he's the one that's really holding back. And I'm wondering if he could dig a little deeper and maybe work a little bit more with Erica to really uncover what's going on and how his subconscious programming is playing a part in this experience that he has in this experience that he is sharing with Mael. And so I'm wondering, do we see a match here? Do we think that anything can develop here? Or should Aaron just leave? Should he pack it up? Let me know in the comments what you think. What do you think about the interaction between Aaron and Mael and Aaron sleeping on the couch? Do we think that that's a little bit much? Is it odd? Or maybe some people really just do prefer to sleep alone. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments. And listen, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you for being here. I want you to go out and have a courageous day, and then when you're ready, come on back for the next one. But until then, bye for now.